What Chris was just talking about, the prime suspect in the 2005 disappearance of Natalee Holloway, Joran van der Sloot, coming back to the United States, or to be more specific, he's being forced back. This after U.S. and Peruvian authorities just reached an agreement to extradite van der Sloot here to finally face federal charges that he extorted Natalee Holloway's mother by promising to tell her where her daughter's body was buried in exchange for $250,000, information that turned out to be complete fiction. A grand jury in Alabama indicted van der Sloot in 2010 after Beth Holloway sent him $25,000. He was charged with one count of wire fraud, one charge of extortion. That was nearly 13 years ago. And so the question few seem to be asking is, why is Peru just now finally agreeing to extradite him? Well, here's something that almost no one has noticed. This comes on the heels of the U.S. extraditing back to Peru its former president, Alejandro Toledo, to face charges in one of Latin America's biggest corruption scandals. It involves four past presidents of Peru, one of whom committed suicide before his arrest. Toledo was president from 2001 to 2006, was the subject of an international manhunt by Peruvian authorities back in 2017. They formally requested his extradition from the U.S. in 2018. He was then arrested in California the next year before being released on house arrest in 2020 when the pandemic hit. He's been fighting extradition tooth and nail. Okay. 3 days after his last appeal was denied, on April 23rd, he was back on Peruvian soil to stand trial on charges he took millions in bribes during his presidency. Faces 20 years in prison. Huge deal for Peru to get this guy back. The authorities made a big show of it with camera crews everywhere as Peru's national police officers escorted the former president off the tarmac at Lima Airport. Then, 2.5 weeks later, the Peruvian government issues an order accepting a request by U.S. authorities for Joran van der Sloot's extradition. A request which was first initiated back in 2012 and which has become more active this year as the former president, Toledo, was exhausting his appeals. Now remember, June of 2010, the same month, the federal grand jury in Alabama indicted van der Sloot for that extortion of Natalee Holloway's family. He was charged in Peru with the first-degree murder of Stephanie Flores Ramirez, who was killed in that country a month earlier. It's also been reported that van der Sloot traveled to Peru, where he met Stephanie, using the money he allegedly extorted from Holloway's family. Now, in 2012, Peru's highest court also ruled van der Sloot could be extradited, but said it would have to be after Joran van der Sloot served his 28-year prison term for murder in that country first. So what changed? With the enormous amount of international coverage, Natalee Holloway's case, the pressure on the Peruvian government from U.S. officials to extradite this guy must have been huge from the beginning, but nothing happened until now. This sure feels like a prisoner swap. One country swapping a high-profile wanted fugitive for another. The U.S. seems to have waited for Toledo to exhaust his legal avenues, including what a federal judge called a last-ditch effort to try to delay. Days later, he's back on Peruvian soil. The timing is undeniable. Now, this is a huge deal for all of us who have watched and covered the Natalee Holloway case play out for nearly 2 decades, since she first disappeared on that high school graduation trip to Aruba. We followed the seemingly botched investigation by Aruban authorities, which ultimately led nowhere, the massive media coverage and van der Sloot's numerous TV interviews and false statements about what really happened that night, and we've followed along as her mother relentlessly tried to find her. The fact the main suspect in her disappearance and presumed murderer may soon face American justice, albeit for an extortion and wire fraud, could also give authorities in this country another crack at compelling van der Sloot to finally tell the truth about what he knows about what happened to Natalee. Kudos to the federal prosecutors and law enforcement who didn't give up on this case in their pursuit for justice, and I'm sure they've been waiting for this moment. Natalee Holloway's mother releasing a statement, quote, "I was blessed to have had Natalee in my life for 18 years, and as of this month, I've been without her for exactly 18 years. She'd be 36 years old now. It's been a very long and painful journey, but the persistence of many is going to pay off. Together, we're finally getting justice for Natalee." What's interesting is that this is what is called a temporary extradition based on a decades-old treaty between Peru and the U.S., which allows a suspect to temporarily face trial in the other country, but requires that the prisoner be returned once the court proceedings are over. So the question, of course, in Vandersloot's case will be, will he serve time here if he's convicted or be sent back to Peru? Because remember, he's only served 11 years of a 28-year murder sentence there. Now, in Peru, it's true many defendants can be released after just serving a portion of their sentence, but we shall see if that was part of the agreement. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your cable provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.